Hi Sagittarians, welcome to Souls Intersect. I have your May of 2016 reading. I pulled 4 cards, actually 6 cards for you this month. I pulled the first 4 and then I wanted a little bit more clarification, so I pulled the last 2. And I'll come to those in a minute. They are the Lovers and Justice down there. But the first 4 were the 4 of Pentacles on the top left, and then the 2 of Swords, and then I have the 6 of Cups and Death. Okay, so I'm getting some pretty loud messages about, to sum up this reading, I feel like there's something that you're holding on to, and it's something that you need to make a decision about. It's possible that it's something that you have roots in from the past or past life, and it's something that has reached its expiration date, and I feel that it's time to make the decision to move on. But I do feel like something's holding you back. So the first 2 cards are really showing me that. And the third card, the 6 of Cups, is giving me probably what for the majority of you is going to be the reason why you're holding back. And it really has to do with nostalgia, holding on to ties from the past, maybe even something as far back as childhood, and just not wanting to let go. And I know those are words that can be really kind of painful and really sting to hear, but I do feel like making the decision to move forward is really in your best interest. So for some of you, I'm getting that for a lot of you, it's a relationship that you're in. It could very well be a marriage, especially with the 4 of Pentacles too, because that makes me feel like, okay, so another reason that some of you might be holding back is not wanting to stir the pot in terms of your joint finances or possibly a business that you have together. That mixed with the ties from the past and the history that you have together, really preventing you from making this decision. So I'm actually just sending a little bit of healing around that, because I feel like it's really something that is been at the forefront of your mind probably this whole year. It really stands out to me that it's been something that you've been going through since the holidays or maybe longer. Okay. So for some of you, this could relate to something else. It could be about making a decision to leave a job or let someone go who you're not with or not married to maybe. So that's going to be for some of you, but really the loudest one has to do with marriage. And I'm going to come back to some of these cards, but I just want to go to this because when I asked to clarify, I got Justice and the Lovers. So that with Death being 3 major arcanas is a really loud message for me, with my guides confirming that that it is time to move forward with the justice process. So that's something literal. And it also has the underlying message of it's time karmically. So in terms of karmic justice, something has run its course. Sometimes we just have contracts with people who that's meant to only last for a certain period of time. That's true with marriages too, and it doesn't mean that you did anything wrong by marrying that person. Karmic relationships can feel absolutely like a soulmate. It can feel like something that will never end because they're so powerful, and they're so powerful because they're meant to ensure that you stay together to fulfill that contract, because sometimes we're not all aware, we're not all awake spiritually, so we wouldn't necessarily be receiving the message into our consciousness that we have a contract with this person and we need to do something. But the pull to be together really is the glue that holds you together for a while. And that's, in my perspective, a spiritual pull. And so that's why some couples end up getting married when they feel something that strong. So it's not anything wrong, and usually you're meant to be together for this period of time. And it is complicated because if you are married, then you do have to go through with the justice process, and it can be really complicated. But the thing about karmic relationships is that they really no longer serve you past their expiration date, and it really just is time to cut the cords when it's time. With that said, that doesn't mean that it's something that you have to turn around and do this moment or do tomorrow, because we all need to feel completely ready. But I'm here to deliver this message to some of you for some reason, so I believe that at least hearing it from someone outside and it entering into your consciousness is going to be really important for some of you. It's possible for some of you, too, that you have met someone outside the marriage who you feel like may be a better partner for you. And so the message there is that I feel like that's the case. That doesn't necessarily mean that that person would be someone you would be with permanently either. It could also be another contract. But again, I feel like these things happen. We meet people for a reason. Most of the readings that I've done so far, private readings, really have had a lot in them about who we meet and when, and maybe not wanting to let go of something from the past or being in the process of doing that. So I do feel like it's something that a lot of people are going through right now. Learning about spiritual relationships and really seeing relationships from a different perspective than they did in the past because of spiritual awakenings. And that can often be because of someone new who's come into our life. And I do believe that that's for a reason, so I want to confirm that for you. Okay. I'm zoning in on this Two of Swords here, and I'm feeling like something that could help you. She's really blinded to, well, everything around her because of the blindfold, but especially the moon is really coming into focus for me. So the message I'm getting with that is that it could be that for some of you, the holding back and from making the decision is that you're trying to perceive it too much as a mental thing, like a logical decision, like a pros and cons list. Could be something that some of us resort to in times like this. And again, for some of you, this could have to do with work, or something else. But I'm really picking up the relationship vibe. But so she's blinding herself to that moon there. And it reminds me of the moon from the High Priestess card, which is about spirituality. And since this is a swords card and about logic, especially this one because it has to do often with decision making, I feel that it's important for you to remove the blindfold towards that moon, that really letting in your intuition. I'm seeing the water in the background. I feel like some of you could have a water sign as a rising sign, because I feel like someone or a lot of you really have strong intuition. And I don't think it's that you're ignoring it, because I think some of this stuff is already coming up for you and you know that it's there. But the message is that to try not to approach it with so much logic. Some of you could also have an air sign as your rising sign, and that could be why you may fixate more on logic. But it's so important in this situation, whatever it is for you, that you rely more on your intuition. So remove the blindfold, so to speak, to messages you receive from higher realms. And the really beautiful thing about that is that you actually don't even have to move the blindfold. You can keep holding on to those swords and not even free your hands in order to untie it, because ultimately when you receive messages from the higher dimensions, it's coming into your consciousness without using your five senses. And so that's what's amazing about it, is that open up to it, but you really don't even have to make a move. You don't even have to have your eyes open. So that's a really powerful message for this one. And I just adore this depiction of that Two of Swords card. It's just such a beautiful card. It may even do some of you good to be by water in contemplating any decision making that you have right now, or facing a big choice that you might be facing in your life. Even just the scene, it just seems really healing, besides the conundrum that she's in. But being by water, and especially being by water at nighttime, if that's possible for you, could be really healing. It can also be nice to even just like listen to sounds of rain if you're in a dry place or not in a place that's close to water. There's also a lot of flowers in this reading, and for me, that's really confirming. One thing is that it's confirming wedding, and so I feel like uh, it's confirming that this is about a marriage for a lot of you, and it's all kinds of different flowers, but even death there, it's almost like he's about to decapitate that flower. It's a bit harsh, and this deck tends to really deliver the messages with, well, very strongly, I feel, and it definitely impacts the tone of the reading, but I do feel like a lot of you did need to hear this. So the other thing about flowers too is that this might be something that plays into your literal life in some way, something to do with a business that you have, like a floral, something in the floral industry or the wedding industry. A little bit of irony there. So it could be something that a couple does, like wedding photography or planning or something to do with weddings. So I'm not picking up anything more specific, but I do feel like for someone watching, this floral theme is coming into play for them. Also gardening. Gardening could be a thing. I think that's also another suggestion coming from this reading is if you aren't in a place where you can be by water necessarily, that especially it being spring, being around nature, even doing gardening yourself, having a flower garden, it can be so healing. It's such a grounding thing in a very literal way. You get your hands in the ground, and it can really help you feel more planted to earth, which is also a great place to be when needing to make a decision. Okay. I'm picking up some fear. Sometimes the death card brings that about, so I could be tuning into some of you around that, but I actually was looking at the Six of Cups when I picked it up, and I heard Little Red Riding Hood for some reason. I'm not sure why. And the Big Bad Wolf. It could be something that fear might be holding you back, and it might not necessarily just be about finances, which I mentioned, or childhood, or just historical bonds that I mentioned. But it could be that you're afraid of something, like there's someone else in the situation, whether it be work or romance, that you would definitely hear from or almost be like barked at by if you were to make a decision to leave this situation. So I'm not sure who that's speaking to, but there's definitely a fear of what someone's going to say. It could also be multiple people, what they would say. But remember that with the death card, it's really kind of it's more about the cycle of life, metamorphosis, so to speak, and ending something to begin something new. And I know those can be painful words too sometimes, and so I don't say it lightly, and I don't like cliches or anything like that, but it's really important with this death card to remind people of that. In fact, almost to see it, instead of just seeing it as a death followed by a new life or something new, even just to see it entirely as a birth card. It should be called the birth card. So that should help to quell some fear, I hope. So I'm gonna end this reading in a little bit of silence to send a bit more healing your way, because so far of all the readings, I'm just really picking up some turmoil and in this process, and so I'm going to go ahead and send some healing. And remember, if you're interested, just go ahead and email me if you have any questions or interested in a private reading. SoulsIntersect@gmail.com. If you like the vibration of that and were able to feel it, I would really suggest calling upon Mother Mary, the Virgin Mary. Whether or not you're Christian or follow that or not, it can be really helpful. I believe in deities from all religions, and she is really comforting at times of just plain needing to feel at peace or comforted. And she is someone that shows up in Islam as well, in the Quran, and just a really powerful angel that a lot of people with a lot of beliefs do use. So I would highly